Hey guys, it's finally nice enough to bring all the plants outside, so all my plants are outside. Today we'll be removing the wire that I put on this tamarind plant here, and we'll do a little bit of pruning. As you can see, some of the branches are quite long without any ramification. This one was pruned once right here, but it was just a single leader, so I'm going to have to prune it back probably to here or so for all of these, and hope that we get a lot of new branching here. So I won't show you the whole process of removing the wire, but I'll show you a little bit. So what you want to do when you're removing the wire, you want to support where you're bending the wire. You got to be very careful so you don't break. It's hard to see, but so you don't break the branch while you're untwisting the wire. And usually people will go in and cut the wires, but I want to kind of save the wires, so I'll probably just remove my hand. So continuing on with the wire removal, I'll just do some here. Hopefully you guys can see this. I think the branches are flexible enough to where I can unwind the branch from the wire itself actually. And then once we get to a certain area, I'll just move it with my hand. So through here, supporting the wire, and then unwinding it. Once we get to this point, it's pretty strong. We've got to come to a thicker area of the branch. Hopefully this goes a little bit faster. When I brought my plants outside, they're all sitting underneath my deck, and that's where we are right now, to protect from the sun. Some of the plants actually accidentally got too much sun and have gotten burnt, like my soursop, so it's fine though. All the leaves will fall off and it'll grow new leaves. So why don't I go through and remove all the wires, and we'll come back and do some pruning. So before I finish here, I just want to show you guys, so this is the branch that, you know, it's just long and straight and pretty uninteresting. This is not what you want in a tree, or especially a bonsai. You want to get the branching that's going on. So this one is very uninteresting, but you can see there's a bunch of, you know, buds alternating on this. Get a close up here, and each one of those is a potential for a new branch. Here's an example of a branch structure that you want. You can see that it forks out a lot. You know, you go from here and then it spreads out, and this whole area here becomes, you know, a pad. And that's kind of what you want, and by pruning you can get this. So I just wanted to show you the difference in those two branches, and I'll continue to remove the wires and we'll be back. Another thing I wanted to point out while I'm doing this is, if you guys remember, this tamarind was grown from seed maybe 2.5 years ago, 3 years. It was quite uninteresting. If you look closely at the trunk, if I can zoom in here for you. If you're looking closely at the trunk, you can see that these branches are alternating. So it would kind of look like this branch here, where you can see it goes on the right side here, to the left, to the right, to the left. That's exactly what it is. It's kind of flat. It's on one plane here, and that's just the growth habit of the tamarind. So that's the reason why I wired it, to give it more of a full, you know, 3D shape. And I'll show you guys once I'm done removing all the wire. But I just wanted to point that out. And another thing is, if you are wiring a tree, it's usually good to remove the wires after 1, maybe 2 years, depending how fast it grows, because you start to get indentations from the wire on the plant. There is a little bit right here, as you can see. That's not too bad, but I've seen a lot worse, and it's just not a characteristic that you want on the tree. Eventually, you know, it'll smoothen out as the tree grows, but it's not something that you'll want on there. So that's just another thing I wanted to point out. And okay, and we're done. So like I said, there's a little bit of an imprint from the wires on this, but nothing too major. The trunk is mostly clean, so that's good news. Another thing that I don't like right now is you see the upper branches are a lot longer and thicker than the lower branches. In actual trees, if you look at any tree, the lower branches are usually the thicker ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to prune those. I'm just going to let them grow out and thicken. So we'll just start pruning some of these other branches here to get the ramification that we want. I kind of hate cutting some of this because it's starting to put out new growth, but better now than later, I guess. So with this branch here, we're going to do some directional pruning now. I'll just get up close and show you guys. So what I mean by directional pruning is, if you guys look right here, let's go to a branch like this here. If it'll focus. So right here, you can see that that's not a very good one. Let's go to this long one that we were talking about earlier. Okay, so right here, if you can see, each one of these buds is talking about buds. That's another thing that I wanted to mention when you're removing the wires. Be careful not to damage the buds. If you damage it, new branches may not grow from them. So back to this, you can see that, you know, there's alternating buds on here. I don't know why this thing is not focusing. But yeah, here. So if I wanted this branch, it's so hard because the phone wants to focus on the ground. It's not focusing. Well, I'll just use these branches that are already existing so that you can see. It might still be a little blurry, but let's say that this is a branch and I wanted to, whether I want to go to the right or the left. If I wanted to go to the left here, I would cut the branch off here so that the bud on this side grows out and that branch will grow into the direction that I want. If I wanted to go to the right, then I would cut it right after this bud here so that it grows to the right. And that's what I mean by directional pruning. You can do that with all of these branches here to get you know, what you want. So let's go back to pruning here. Just set the tripod down. So I said for this branch, I think I'm going to want it to grow back in this direction. So there's a bud right here. I'm just going to cut. I'm going to cut and leave about a 1/4 inch after the bud. Or maybe even more, just for some dieback. I'm just going to cut it just to the beginning of the next bud. You don't want to cut it too close to the bud. See, the bud is right here, and I cut it here. Just so if there's some dieback, you don't kill that bud. So we'll just go through, we'll keep pruning. There's a bud growing upwards this way, so I think I'm going to cut it there. Some you know, nice new leaves coming out. For this branch here, I think I'm also going to want it to grow back this way so it doesn't grow into that branch over there. So right here seems like a good spot. Some of these lower ones here. This one was pruned once here and it grew out. It's not doing anything, so I think I'm going to want the branch to grow this way, so I'm going to cut that here. I can cut that one a little close, but it's alright. Same here. This branch has actually 3 branches growing here already, but this section is a little long, so I might chop that and bring it back to about there. This one's got nice branching, but there's no branches back this way, so I think I'm going to want to, and usually another one thing you want to look at is on the bends, you never want to branch inside of a curve. So you see this one's outside, and that's fine. This one's outside, that's fine. So here, ideally, you want a branch to grow here and a branch to grow here. If there was a branch that's growing right here, this way, you want to get rid of that because that doesn't look natural. You always want the branch to grow kind of on the outside of the curve. So this branch is actually kind of long. I think I'm going to bring it back to about here. This is going to be some pretty drastic pruning for this this tamarind. For this branch here, I think I'm going to want to go all the way back to here. And with this one here, I think I'm going to want it to grow this way. So I think I'll cut it back to there. This branch here is a little long, even though it has 3 branches and this one's budding out. I think I'm going to take it back to about here. And this is kind of where I pruned it previously, and it just kind of grew 1 branch really long. Same with this one here. I think I'm going to take this off here. This one off here. Like I said, I'm going to leave these lower branches and just let them grow out to help them thicken. But this one here can be brought back to about there. This one, I think I'm either going to bring it back to this curve or this curve. So if I have this one here, it's probably going to grow like that. What I'm hoping is if I cut it here, I can get a branch here and a branch here. Not always the case, but it is too long here, so I think I'm just going to bring it back to here. Alright, let's turn this around. Care of this front branch here. I'm sure you guys can see that. Just slide that out a little bit. So we just take care of this branch here. Seems to be doing pretty good. This one is kind of long. Snipped out there. I'll leave this guy to grow, get a little stronger. This guy is just one, long. So and this one, the buds are actually on top and bottom. You can see this one's pointing straight down. I don't really like that. But if I use this one, it's going to grow into this branch, so that's not ideal either. So I may have to cut it all the way out here, like there. And this will grow this way. Other than that, looks pretty good. You can see there's, after I remove the wire, the mealybugs like to hide between the wire and the branch. I had a pretty big problem with mealybugs and thrips this year. Aphids weren't too big of an issue. Aphids were on one of my plants, the macaque June plum, and I didn't really care. I didn't have time to deal with it, so I dealt with it just enough to keep it alive, and it wasn't thriving, but it kind of flushed out and then died back, flushed out and died back. The aphids are really annoying to get rid of indoors, especially if you have, a couple hundred plants to care for. So, yeah, that's that. This branch is actually pretty good. You can see the amount of branching that's occurring here, and that's great. I'm just going to leave that like that for now. The only thing is, eventually I may have to prune it back to here, just because you can see it's a top branch. This was actually the leader that I bent down to turn into a branch, or else this would keep growing taller. I'm just gonna leave it for now. Eventually I may just air layer it right here to turn into another tree, but I'm not gonna touch that much. So it's a little lopsided, but that's the pruning right now. That's the plan for the plant. As you can see, it's not very symmetrical, just due to the fact that, you know, this is the main leader and I bent it down to turn into kind of one of the main branches. So I think that's all we're going to be doing today for the tamarind tree. If you haven't already, please subscribe and turn on notifications, so when I give you the update on the tamarind, you'll be notified of the new video. We'll see you next time.